I was there that night. 4 words. That is all he said. 4 words that just shattered this entire investigation wide open. Tomaso Chion, Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, broke his silence just hours ago. And what he admitted in front of those cameras has left investigators, the family, and everyone following this case completely speechless. Stay with me. Because what he said next is even more disturbing than those 4 words. I was there that night. The silence is over. And what came after those words has changed everything. But that is not the only bombshell breaking right now in this investigation, because while Tomaso was standing at that podium, there was something else happening behind the scenes. Something a former FBI special agent has gone on record about, a tactic, a specific, named, tested federal strategy that she says could identify Nancy's kidnapper tonight, not next month. Not after another lead goes cold, tonight. And the most disturbing part of all of it is this: nobody is using it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, everything is going to lock into place. Let me take you back to the beginning. Because to understand why today matters so much, you have to understand what this family has been living through since January 31st, 2026. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old. She had lived in her Tucson, Arizona home for decades. She required daily medication she could not safely miss. She had a pacemaker. Her routines were deeply established, the kind of patterns her neighbors recognized and her family depended on. The kind of patterns that make a person feel safe, that make a neighborhood feel safe. On the morning of February 1st, 2026, all of those patterns broke simultaneously. Her phone was still inside the house. Her medication was untouched. Her personal belongings were exactly where they should have been. She had not packed anything. She had not left a note. She had not called anyone to say she was going somewhere. She had simply vanished from inside a home with no signs of forced entry and no confirmed explanation for how she left or who she left with. Think about what no forced entry means in an investigation like this. It is not a minor detail. It narrows the field in a very specific and very chilling way. It means whoever was inside that house that night was either let in by Nancy herself or was already there when whatever happened began. It means this investigation has never been about a stranger who broke down a door. It has always been about someone Nancy knew, someone who knew how that house worked, someone who understood the layout, the cameras, the systems, the routines. The Pima County Sheriff called it what it was: a kidnapping, targeted, planned, deliberate. The FBI joined the case. More than 400 investigators were assigned. 40 to 50,000 tips poured in. DNA was collected and tested. Surveillance footage was recovered from Google's back-end servers by engineers who spent days on a technically complex extraction. A masked suspect was identified on camera, 5'9" to 5'10", average build, dark clothing, a specific backpack from Walmart. A $1 million reward was announced by the family. $100,000 from the FBI. And through all of it, while Savannah Guthrie sat across from her co-host on The Today Show with a camera on her face and a nation watching performing normalcy, while her mother was still out there somewhere, Tomaso Chion said nothing, not one word. Until today. The reporters in that room noticed everything about how he entered. He did not rush. He did not look overwhelmed the way people look when they have been carrying something unbearable for weeks. He moved deliberately, almost carefully, as if the sequence of his steps had been considered in advance. He adjusted the microphone. He looked out at the room. And then he spoke. Not with the desperation of a family member who still does not know what happened to someone he loves, with something closer to control. And in a case like this, control stands out. I was there that night. Not because investigators did not already suspect he had been present, not because the family had been unaware, but because up until that moment, Tomaso Chion had given this investigation nothing publicly to work with, and now he had. And what he said after those 4 words made everything worse. He spoke about an argument. He spoke about tension inside the house that evening. He described legal and financial changes Nancy had been quietly making in the weeks before she disappeared. Changes that had a specific direction. They shifted control over assets in ways that affected more than just paperwork. Nancy had reportedly spoken to her attorney in the weeks before February 1st. She had asked specific questions. She had initiated changes. And for someone positioned within the structure, those changes affected that matters. Not as a conclusion, as context. Because context is what transforms a timeline into a story. And then he said something that stopped the room in a way that his initial admission had not quite managed. He said, "She was not alone. She was not alone." Two words that introduced a presence into this investigation that had not been publicly confirmed before that moment. A second person inside that house on the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Not Tomaso, someone else. Someone whose name he did not immediately provide. Someone who had not spoken publicly. Someone who had not been named by law enforcement. Someone who had not appeared in any confirmed reporting on this case up to that point. In the back of that press conference room, according to people present, a detective wrote something down slowly and then underlined it. Because the moment Tomaso Chion confirmed a second presence in that house, the investigation did not just gain a new data point, it gained a new dimension. This was no longer the story of one person's whereabouts on a specific night. This was the beginning of a reconstruction. A sequence of events involving at least two people in a home where an 84-year-old woman was last seen alive. And the question that every investigator in that room was already asking, the question that has defined every hour of this case since that press conference, is this: if Tomaso was there, and a second person was there, and Nancy Guthrie has not been found, what exactly happened during the time between when she was last seen and when her family arrived the following morning to find her gone? The answer to that question may already exist, not in witness testimony, not in a confession, in the one recording device inside that house that nobody could disable, because nobody could reach it. It was inside Nancy Guthrie's chest. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker did not stop recording when the cameras went dark. It did not pause when the argument Tomaso described began. It kept doing the one thing it was built to do, without interruption. Without external power, without any connection to the outside world, it monitored, it logged. It time-stamped every cardiac event that Nancy's body produced during the hours that have defined this entire investigation. Modern pacemakers are not passive devices. They record heart rate continuously in real time. They flag and time-stamp sudden rate changes. They log cardiac rhythm irregularities automatically. Many include accelerometers that detect and record physical movement. All of that runs on the device's own implanted battery, completely independent of any external connection. The human body responds to fear in physiologically predictable ways. A sudden significant elevation in heart rate is the measurable biological result of acute fear onset. In an 84-year-old woman with a pre-existing cardiac condition, that response would still be present, and it would be detected, logged, and time-stamped by the device in her chest down to the second. If Nancy became aware of a threat inside her home that night, her heart rate would have responded immediately. And the device would have captured that moment with a precision that no camera, no witness account, and no second-hand testimony can match. Investigators working from pacemaker data they have reportedly sought access to through a warrant served on the device manufacturer are now overlaying that biological timeline against every detail Tomaso provided. Because what matters in a prosecution is not just what someone says happened, it is whether what they say aligns with what the evidence independently recorded. And there is another layer: the security system inside Nancy's home. Investigators who reviewed that system in the early days reportedly found something that did not fit the profile of a technical malfunction. The gaps in the recording, the periods where footage should exist but does not align with specific windows in the timeline, and the method by which those gaps were created was not consistent with a system error. The system had been accessed remotely using correct credentials. Not hacked, not physically tampered with. Accessed with the correct password by someone who knew how the system worked. Whoever disabled that security footage did not break into the system. They walked through the front door of it digitally, using information that was not publicly available. That is the detail law enforcement sources have described as significant, not because it proves who accessed the system, but because it defines the category of person who could have. Someone with knowledge of the home. Someone familiar enough with the property to know the system existed, know where it was managed, and know the credentials required to access it. And then there is the text message. According to reporting from sources connected to this investigation, a message was sent from a phone connected to Tomaso in the window following the period when Nancy's pacemaker signal went dark. The content of that message, as reported, was a single word. Handled. Let that word sit for a moment. Handled. That is not the language of panic. It is not the language of confusion or grief or shock. It is the language of completion. Of a task performed and reported back to someone who was waiting for confirmation. And the person waiting for that confirmation, the owner of the prepaid phone on the other end of that message, is the thread this investigation has not yet resolved publicly. Now, While all of this was unfolding while Tomaso was at that podium and investigators were processing every word he said, there was a completely separate thread in this investigation that has been building quietly for 2 months. And a former FBI special agent just went on record about it publicly in a way that should stop everyone following this case cold. There is a tactic. It has a name. It has been used by the FBI before, and it does not require finding Nancy first. It does not require a confession. It does not require a witness, a tip, or anyone making a careless mistake. It requires only one thing: that the person who has been sending ransom notes to TMZ for the past 2 months does exactly what they have been begging to do: take the money. Because the moment they do, everything changes. The moment that Bitcoin moves, a trail opens. A trail that is permanent, internationally visible, federally trackable. And that trail leads, in sequence, to an identification, an arrest, and a federal prosecution. Harvey Levin, the founder of TMZ, went on record and confirmed that someone has been contacting TMZ about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance since the earliest weeks after she went missing. Not once, not twice. More than half a dozen times. 6 separate contacts at minimum, from the same direction, making the same demand. Across weeks of an active federal investigation, while Nancy's family was waiting, while searches were being conducted, while an 84-year-old woman's children were going on television begging for their mother's life. The demand was specific: half a Bitcoin, a specific wallet address. In exchange, the implication of information about Nancy's location. TMZ confirmed what happened next. Nothing. The wallet is empty. Not a single transaction. Not a partial payment. Not a test deposit. Completely empty. Exactly as it was when the first contact arrived. Think about what that pattern tells you. This is not a single impulsive act from someone who panicked. This is sustained behavior. Someone who keeps choosing to make contact. Someone who keeps coming back. 6 times, while a family is breaking apart waiting for answers. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, one of the most credible voices on this case, told Newsweek something that deserves to be heard slowly. She does not believe the sender necessarily has real information about where Nancy is. A former FBI special agent looked at the confirmed facts and said, this person probably does not know where Nancy Guthrie is. And then she said, we should still find out who they are. Right now. Because what this person has done, regardless of what they know, has created a specific legal exposure for them. The person sending these emails has already committed a federal crime, not arguably. Not theoretically. Federal extortion statutes make it a federal crime to transmit in interstate commerce any communication that demands money connected to a person's welfare or safety. Email is interstate commerce. Cryptocurrency is value. 6 separate contacts across weeks of an active federal investigation is a sustained course of criminal conduct. The crime is complete the moment the demand is transmitted. 6 times over. This person may believe anonymous cryptocurrency and anonymous email gave them a shell nobody can crack. That belief fundamentally underestimates what the FBI can do in 2026. Bitcoin operates on a blockchain, a publicly distributed ledger that records every transaction ever made on the network. Every single one, permanently. The ledger cannot be altered. It is maintained across thousands of nodes in dozens of countries. It is, in a meaningful sense, indestructible as a record. And the anonymity Bitcoin provides is narrow. The moment the money moves toward anything useful, the moment the sender tries to actually spend what they demanded, the wall appears. Coffindaffer put it on record to Newsweek in 11 words. Do they take it? Do they convert it to pesos? It is internationally tracked. Any conversion from Bitcoin into spendable money passes through a regulated exchange. And regulated exchanges collect identity records. Name, government-issued ID. Bank account, physical address. The trail does not require the sender to be careless. It only requires them to do the one thing they said they wanted to do: take the money. Now, here is the name I promised you: Tickle the Wire. Tickle the Wire is a law enforcement strategy with a documented history in federal practice. Situations where investigators have a monitored communication channel, but the subject has gone quiet. So investigators take a deliberate action, a calculated move. They create a stimulus on the wire. They give the subject a reason to act. And when the subject acts, they reveal themselves. You make something happen on the line you are monitoring, and then you capture what happens next. Jennifer Coffindaffer named this tactic by name. She applied it directly to Nancy Guthrie's case. She said, "This is the mechanism. This is what should be done. Use it. The wire is the blockchain. The monitored channel is the Bitcoin wallet the sender provided to TMZ. And the tickle, the deliberate calculated provocation, is the half Bitcoin deposit. You put the money in the wallet, you give the sender exactly what they asked for, and then you watch what happens. Because the blockchain is the wire. Permanent, global, observable. The tactic has a name, the mechanism is understood, the wallet address is known. The sender has established a pattern of contact that confirms they are watching this situation closely. Everything required to execute this strategy is already in place. And the wallet is still empty. 2 threads. 1 investigation. Tomaso Chion just broke his silence and confirmed a second person was inside that house on the night Nancy disappeared. And somewhere else, a person who has contacted TMZ 6 times is sitting behind an empty Bitcoin wallet waiting to see what happens next. Both of those people know something. One of them just started talking, the other one left a wire, and a former FBI agent is saying publicly, "Tickle it." Nancy Guthrie went to church every Sunday. She had dinner with her family. She was 84 years old. She had a pacemaker. She needed medication she did not get. And somewhere between the moment that camera went dark and the moment her family arrived to find her gone, the truth is waiting. In a pacemaker, in a blockchain, in a single word sent to a prepaid phone. Handled. The answers exist. The question is whether the people following this investigation are going to use every tool available to find them. If you have any information about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, anything at all, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. That number is 1-800-225-5324. Submit tips at tips.fbi.gov or call the Pima County Sheriff's tip line at 5203514988. The 88 Crime Anonymous line is also active. The Guthrie family is offering $1 million. The FBI is offering $100,000. Nancy is still missing. The wire is still waiting. 2 people know the truth, and neither of them has told it yet.